we'll talk about today. First to start, some really basic key facts about the budget, EU budget. So if we look at the EU as an institution, it's a very important institution, but if we look at it on a budget-wise and from a tendering perspective, so with an annual budget of a little bit over 170 billion euros, it's rather, I would say, rather small if we compare it to nation states. In tendering, so it covers around 1%. The budget covers around 1% of the EU GDP, and in tendering, it's only 2% of the total tendering budget, public procurement budget in the EU. So combined EU institutions with the national governments, local governments, regional governments. And the EU institutions of this budget, they manage directly 20%. So the rest of the budget is covered and managed in combination or in collaboration with other entities such as national governments or regional governments. And the EU institutions do this with, I would say, around 60,000 people, of which I think around 40,000 are based in Brussels. So I will talk about EU tendering. What does that mean? It's really public procurement by the EU institutions, from Commission, Parliament, but also the agencies. It's in the presentation. It's a brief presentation on what it means and what's in it. So it's the principles of public procurement that are based on EU law. If you want to tender, and you're all tenders as well, you're all in digital businesses. The whole process is it's a digital process from really the announcement of the tender just up to the payment. And there are two main platforms. There is the funding and tender opportunities where you will also find the grants. So I will limit myself to the tender part, and on the more traditional, older platform, which is the Tender Electronic Daily, which I think most of the people that are active in EU grants and EU tendering know. But normally, it should all switch to the funding and tender opportunities platform. What is very important if you want to tender with the EU, and maybe most of you are have already done that, but is that you need to register yourself on the platform. You need to register as an individual, and you need to register your organization. But so that's really the basic first step, because I meet a lot of companies that want to participate in tenders from the EU institutions, but that have never worked with them. So that's really the first step. You register as an individual, and then you can, as an individual, register your organization. But it's also very well possible that your organization is already on the platform. But so second step is registering your organization, and your organization will get a participant identification code, which is a code that you will have to use further on in all the processes. So, just to get to the basics, what is tendering? What are the basic principles of tendering? So, it's the idea to have transparent rules and transparent processes and procedures to buy products, to buy services, to buy goods. Transparency means in the first place that it's what an institution wants to buy, it is published, and that's one of the platforms that I've mentioned. The second is, of course, that there is an equal treatment for all the potential participants, and there is no discrimination in companies coming from Belgium, from Italy, from wherever they come. The basic idea is to have no discrimination between EU companies from EU countries. There could be some limitations for companies from outside of the EU. And then the third principle is proportionality. It means that actually, I would say the lower amount of the procurement, the lower the burden for as well the institutions that want to buy as the participants in the tender. Low value or lower value procurement, there will be less conditions and the process will be easier. How does an institution, this is as well the fact for national or regional, as for EU tendering, so a tender is based on exclusion criteria. Most basically is that your company cannot be bankrupt and should have paid all the taxes that they're supposed to pay. That's, I would say, the main exclusion criteria. Then there are selection criteria, and that is more on, I would say, the competences of the company. Does your company have the basic competences, knowledge, experience of what the tendering authority or the procuring authority wants to buy? And then the awarding criteria, there are still tenders that are purely based on price. So there the awarding criteria is the lowest price. And more, and I think that's definitely the case for procurement in the digital sector, for software, and is that it's a mix between price and the competences that you can put forward, so more a qualitative approach. And then the types of contracts and prices. So you can have one-off contracts that an institution really needs one specific service or one specific product, and they sign or they tender a very specific. They do a very specific procurement process for that, or you can also have framework agreements where that you are allowed to deliver a certain service. It can be a maintenance of a platform, for example, for a certain amount of time. That's more than in a framework agreement. And then about prices, yeah. In most cases, there is a global price which is asked to the tenders, which are all inclusive except for taxes, for VAT. The other option is that you provide a price list that the institution evaluates the price list. There are different kind of procedures, and so we'll start with the most common one. Is the open procedure. There, that's really the most used procedure. It is the contract notice, so what the institution wants to buy and how they want to buy it and what they really require it's published on Tender Electronic Daily or on the Funding and Opportunities page, and everybody can participate. I've put here economic operator is the EU jargon that is used. So, but all interested companies can participate, and it's a one-step procedure. So you submit your tender before the deadline, and after the deadline, the institution that is buying will evaluate all the different criteria. Then there is a restricted procedure, which also is published, but it's in two steps. So the first step is that everybody may introduce their company, what they can, and why they want to explain why they want to participate in the tender. But the institution that is buying, they can make a choice of who they will invite to finally put forward a tender. Then we have a call for expressions of interest. This is only for projects below a certain below the legal thresholds, and it's a way for the institutions to pre-select economic operators that they can call upon in when they have calls and when they have tender in the futures. And we have the negotiated procedure below 144,000. In this case, there is no obligation to publish centrally. So that means that in most cases, institutions still publish on the on the general platforms, but it's also possible that a DG publishes it on their own website. And so that's only possible for contracts below the legal thresholds. And then, depending on the value of the contract, they need to invite a certain number. So normally for contracts up to 144,000, they can limit to 5 candidates to invite. And if the tendering institution or the authority, if they want, they can negotiate about the contract. The competitive dialogue, and I think competitive dialogue and innovation partnerships could be very interesting for in digital industries. So competitive dialogue, the contracts or the contract notice is still published on the platforms, but what is published is more a need that is defined rather than a predefined product or solution that is requested by the institution. And again, everybody who's interested can participate or can apply, I would say, but only those that are selected by the tendering authority, they can submit a tender. And after that, again, because it's not there's a need defined, not a final solution or product that is requested, there is a negotiation. It's followed up by a negotiation or a dialogue. Innovation partnerships, there again, the contract notices are published, and everybody can apply, but only those selected or can submit a final tender. There, the objective is to develop a solution or product that is not yet on the market. So, I've done some on both platforms. I've done some research for. I'm a generalist, so I work for as well chocolate factories as digital businesses. So I've done some research on for digital industries, and I think I would say the most important thing is, so this is on Tender's Electronic Daily. If you go to advanced search, you look to all the open or forthcoming procurements, and in this case I've used the code 48, starting from 48, which are software packages and all that. And I think the beginning of the week there were 17 open contracts that are within this code, and I've limited myself to the institutions, of course, because here you can also all national governments also publish. So if you only want to work for the institutions, you really need to narrow your search to that. And actually, for the other platform, it's the same thing. There, I've used the Common Procurement Value Code 72 or onwards, which is software development, IT development. And there, currently there were 24 open and forthcoming tenders. If you go further and click on them, you will get all the information. And the most important, of course, on the bottom of the page, you will have all the documents where also the complete market or what they're looking for is defined. How do you submit a tender? It's also electronically. It's within the tender page, you will have a button to submit on e-submission, which is the platform where you need to go. There again, you will get all the information about the procedure, what kind of procedure there is, and then you start submitting it. I would say pretty easy. It's in a couple of steps. You start either a new submission, or you can also resume where you've left off. On this side, you first need to identify if you are just as your own company alone submitting a tender, if you're submitting a tender in collaboration with other companies. you make sure that all the information about your organization is correct, and then you can upload all the different documents that are requested. There is a dummy version for that you can try for the first time, but I think the biggest part, and it's something you need to do only once, or maybe I need to update every couple of months or years maybe, but there are some legal documents that you need to provide, and it takes, in the beginning it takes a lot of time and a lot of work. And then you go really into detail of the project itself, and so there is the technical tender part where you explain for your company really what you can offer and how you will offer it, and there is the financial tender where you explain what you request as price for this project. At the end, you will get an overview of what you will submit as a tender, and the final step is that you need to send it. Once that is done, then you have really submitted the tender, and then based on the type of the procedure, it's either it's a final version. If it's more in a dialogue or in a negotiation, then it's possible to afterwards to have that the institution requests a best and final offer, for example. That was basically going through the tenders, and I will give the pass over to José, who lived through it.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to start with just a small trick here. When you have the filter in the tender website, you can create a daily mail that is sent to you with all the new tenders or the old tenders or whatever you want. So daily you can have all the new tenders that are published in the European Commission. So it's very interesting. Please use it. Let me see. So I'll start. My name is Kostas Vlokos. I'm the CEO of Upco Minds. We did a recent rebranding. We used to call ourselves Upco. Just a little bit about us, a few basic words. We're an IT services company. We're present in 3 countries, Greece, Belgium, and Cyprus. We're around 220 employees, 15 freelancers, clients, mid and big size companies. And we're present in international collaborations, meaning European projects and research and development projects with companies across Europe. Our mission is to help organizations improve themselves using information technology, and this is for the benefit of their clients, employees, and shareholders. I believe this is an important 3-step process, and we try to keep to that. I'll talk very briefly about tenders. We are not the experts. There are lots of other companies that are the experts in the tendering domain, but I would like to give you a little bit our view about that and about the EU tenders. First of all, it is like national tenders. It's the same rules, more or less, that are applied. My experience is there's a little bit greater transparency. Those of you who are working with national tenders possibly understand me, what I'm talking about. The competition sometimes may be fierce because it's a tender that is open to all over Europe, while in most countries there are requirements that might be related to local rules, to local languages, to local environment. So while in Europe these things do not exist. So there is a lot broader domain, and therefore a lot more companies can participate in that. My experience says that the EU generally pays a lot more attention to the actual execution of the project and the good execution of the project compared to the national authorities that I have some basic experience with. So keep that in mind. It's a good process. Now, pay attention to the takeaways because these are personal experiences. So I think you'll appreciate that. First of all, don't try to bid for the biggest tender that exists in the market. Okay, start small because there is a process. You have to follow the process. you have to understand how it works. And start small. Secondly, you can't start big because most of the big tenders require previous experience on the specific domain, and this is something difficult to have. So you will not be able to bid for a big project from the beginning. Start small. I would say focus on quality, do a good job. If you're doing a good job, the administrators, the overall, the people responsible will appreciate your good job. If you're doing a bad job, you will get away with it most of the time, but the truth is that you will not be liked. And if you're not liked, then possibly you're not going to get a second contract. Do a good job, try to do your best. It's worth it. Another thing that is also important is that when you grow, the projects grow, look for partnerships. Don't try to do everything on your own. Sometimes there is a project that requires two different specializations. You might have the one, you might not have the other. Try for a partner who has the second specialization, try to be together. It's not forbidden. Most of the time, everybody welcomes partnerships. And now I have a few more slides. I have 6 minutes. A few more slides about, sorry, I would like to go back to the EU tenders. And I would try to give one more takeaway that has been the result of, let's say, several years of trying with the tenders. And let's say feedback that we got even from the authorities themselves. It's the same for local tenders, not only local government tenders, not only EU tenders. It's very difficult to get a contract and sign a contract if they don't know you. This is something, unfortunately, I cannot write on the slide. But it's true that we have lost tenders because the tendering authority did not know the company at all. And even though we might have had the best tender, they were afraid. They didn't know if we would do a good job, they didn't know if we would make it the next year, they didn't know who we are. So try to get in touch in whatever way you can, subcontract sometimes to bigger companies that are winning a tender, so that the tendering authority tries to find you, understands you, knows you a little bit better. If they know you, it's a human relationship. Business relationships are mainly human relationships. If they don't trust you in person as a company, they will never give you a contract. Or they will be forced, and then at the end possibly they will regret it. So pay attention to that. Now, I promised that I'll do some basic, let's say, introduction about EU funding, which is related to innovation and, to innovation and research. First of all, you have to understand why you are looking for funding. You have a new product, you have a new service, and you would like to get some money from the European Commission or from overall the environment that supports funding. You have VCs that can do the same thing. Especially with EU funding, I believe that there are a lot of companies out there that are using EU funding as a source of income. I would say try not to do it. It's important that you stay competitive, and it's important on the other hand that you try to find funding for what you would already fund yourself. So you have a product, you have an idea, you have a service that you would like to launch, and you have a business plan, and based on that business plan, you need X amount of money. Try to find a funding that matches your business plan and not the other way around. Don't start with a project that already exists, that you can get into the project, and then try to find a product around that project. We have done that mistake, and at the end we paid more than we would have done it the other way. So pay close attention to that. Try to find funding for what you would already do yourself. And try to use this European funding in order to proceed with your dreams and ideas. Now the funding options I'll go very quickly. I believe some of you will go through these. ERC calls basic research, by fundamental research. Horizon Europe, this is our experience. Another project, another funding instrument that is very interesting is Eurostars across Europe. It's something that is evaluated European-wise, but the money comes from the national bodies. So we, for instance, as a company, we got funded by Hub Brussels, by the region of Brussels, but the evaluation took place at the European level. So we are a consortium of 5 companies, evaluated at the European level, but the decision at the end of the funding, we got it from Hub Brussels. IEC, an excellent tool for those who have already gone through the first stages. So if you are a startup and you are not looking for your angel money, but you want to grow, go for the IEC. If you don't have a stable product and some traction in the market, personal experience again, because I've been an evaluator in IEC, don't go for IEC. It's extremely competitive, an extremely competitive fund, but on the other hand, it's a fund that it's priceless. Priceless because it's free money for your growth most of the time. Every VC will ask you for equity or something else. This is a fund that will get your money, help you grow. You can use the resources of the Commission and the experts around it. It's an excellent tool. Extremely competitive though. And if you look from the top to the bottom, you'll see that the competitiveness grows, more or less. Takeaways, stay focused for EU grants. Funding is part of your investment. Don't look at it as a source of income. Fund partners, this is most of the time required, apart from the last one. And then complete the application. And wish you luck. You have to have luck because they are very competitive. Yeah, don't forget that this is public money. So when you manage this money, you might be bound to audits, you might be bound to other events. So manage this money just like it's public funding, public money. So don't spend it the way that you would spend your own money. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I think I'm just on time.
Thanks a lot, Costas. Very interesting. So, you hear me? Yeah. It was good to have your double view because you were successful with your company in both topics that we covered this afternoon. So the EU tendering and the EU funding. So you made a perfect transition to the next session where we'll talk about EU funding only. So I'm sure you understood the difference. And now we will welcome Frédéric. My dear colleague from NCP Brussels, we will do a presentation about EU funding opportunities under Horizon Europe. So there is a focus really on opportunities for SMEs and research centers. I hope it's going to be right on the target. And then we'll have a testimony from Strategy, a company who was successful in the calls that Frédéric will talk about. Frédéric, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benjamin. I have 15 minutes to give you a broad overview of the different EU opportunities that we found useful for you to take into consideration for this year and the years to come, because those opportunities are, for some of them, recurring. So let's start. Before that, maybe a few words about the NCP role, the National Contact Point. You maybe know this structure by applying in the past. We're several national contact points in Belgium, depending on the region you're located. Here in Brussels, we are your contact point, but if you're based in Flanders or in Wallonia, you can also count on the support of our colleagues, NCP Flanders and NCP Wallonia. And depending if you're an academic or any federal entity also, you also have specific NCPs for depending on your status. But in general, just knock at our door and we can reorientate you in case we cannot give you the support. That was my message. Also, before detailing you a little bit those opportunities, we found useful to ask you some questions and invite you to ask some questions maybe before applying, to target as precisely as possible the different funding opportunities that can be of interest and matching your strategies as a company or as a research team. What challenge do you want to address? Answering this question will close some doors and open some other ones. The same if you want to apply on your own or with a consortium, which is possible from one part of the program to another. The same on the types of activities. Is it for fundamental research, or for applied research, or for the growth stage of your company, as mentioned by Kostas on some of the skills that he presented. The same for the objective that you foresee with your project, EU-wide, I mean. Answering those questions will probably better target the calls for proposals that you are invited to apply to. Then, you also have to make sure for what you apply to Horizon Europe. Is it for co-developing solutions, that's been mentioned by the testimonial recently? Is it for scaling up your company? Is it for acting at a more political level? There you have specific calls for that. And the same, if you are a procurer, you also have some calls dedicated to the procurers for regional authorities. So you have plenty of opportunities depending on what is your objective and what is your scope of action. The same for entering a consortium. Choose wisely what role exactly you want to take in such a project. Being coordinator with all the burden it represents, of course. Is it as a partner, having a very is it me?
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's fine. Don't
Okay.
worry. Shouldn't expose.
Good. If nothing explodes, it's okay. Is it for a very specific role you want to apply? What ownership do you want from the project? If you develop a product, if you want to be very focused on a specific work package, it's also something to consider. A cost-benefit analysis, to say it very quickly. And then how, as I said, task leader, work package leader, task contributor, for instance. And then answering those questions puts you in an easier way to address this big picture, the framework program that you see here, 3 pillars: excellent science for fundamental research or frontier research. I saw in one of the slides the ERC, European Research Council, it's in this pillar. Then you have the pillar 2 for societal challenges. The cluster number 4 that you see here is dedicated to digital, but AI being everywhere, you may address many other clusters in your search for calls for proposals. And then you have the pillar 3 on Innovative Europe. We mentioned the European Innovation Council. This is where I will put a little bit of focus for today. So, when addressing this landscape, you should imagine it like a system with different worlds that you have to gravitate around and see where to start and how to navigate among this big system and how to make it also logical to your journey. Let's start maybe with the European Innovation Council. 3 main funding schemes: Pathfinder, Transition, Accelerator. Maybe you know them, probably because it's been set fully fledged 2021, so that makes now 3 years of operations. ESC Pathfinder being for early stage technology research, for research teams but also for companies. You're very much welcome to apply as a company and form a consortium if you work on early stage technologies or to be at forefront in the years to come in the next developments of your technology. Transition is a little bit more close. I will talk about it later. For measuring technologies from previous projects' results, selection of certain projects, and then you have the EIC accelerator that you may know for companies only, SMEs preferably, for scaling up the operations of your company. It's mainly grants, but not only. It's a mix of grants and investment. which is new to this year in the form of lump sums. I won't go into the details, but to make it short, it's supposed to make your life easier when reporting, because we talked about previously about the burden it would take for reporting for a company. This novelty is supposed to make it easier for companies. There is a mix of collaborative and solo projects, and it's both open and challenge for the three of those funding schemes. Every time you can apply to the open or apply to some challenges that I will present to you. Pathfinder, as I say, is for early stage projects. So don't go for it, of course, if your technology readiness level is already higher than 4. It's made for earlier stage projects. But as I said, it's for technologies that you don't know yet what could be the commercial pathway, and you want to develop the vision around it. And you propose this ambitious vision, this ambitious technology to the Commission to be further investigated and find your pathfinder. So for 2024, here's the budget and the submission dates. One for the open, one for the challenge. The number of pages has been extended a little bit, so that's good news for many of the applicants, but you see it's still quite short. For those who applied in the past in European projects, it could reach 60, 70 pages sometimes. There, it's limited to 20 to 30. So also quite interesting to retain, I think, when applying. It could be consortium-based, or in certain cases, when addressing the challenges, addressed just by you, or a team of 2 participants, beneficiaries. It depends very much on the logic you put behind. Here are the challenges for 2024. I'm really sorry I don't have time to go into the details of them, because you see that you have 5 of them, but you have an info day organized by the Commission on the 20th of March. There are 5 of them. It's not because AI does not appear that, of course, you should not see them or consider them. Please visit in the coming days maybe the website of the Commission. They will publish guidelines for each of those challenges, so you can see exactly what do they expect and where maybe AI can be of use in developing the technologies that will be proposed in the context of those challenges. Here are the evaluation criteria. I won't go into the details of them because it's a little bit too long to really go deeper into the details, but it's like every other call for proposals from Horizon Europe, 3 groups of criteria, excellence, impact, implementation. Every time it's about the novelty that you propose as regards the excellence, the objectives, in the Pathfinder interdisciplinarity, impact, about what do you propose in terms of commercial, societal impacts, communication, dissemination, work plan for the quality and efficiency of the implementation. Then the transition is made, as I said, for very limited eligible projects. If you had in the past a project Horizon Europe relevant to the challenges that will be proposed this year, you are eligible to use the results of those projects to submit a proposal in the context of the EIC transition. It could also come from a grant from the European Research Council and some other programs that you see in the central column over here. It's between $500,000 and $2.5 million grant, and only grant, for a 2-year project mainly. Here is the budget and the deadlines for this year. Only one deadline for the open call again, and only one for, there is no challenge for the transition this year, so only one deadline. And it's a 22-page proposal, which is still, as I said, quite short compared to some other parts of Horizon. Evaluation criteria, again, it's about the breakthrough nature of your solution, methodology, objectives, the same for the impact as the Pathfinder, the potential impact you can have on society and the different markets that you're addressing, and quality and efficiency of implementation, again, about the methodology, the work plan that you propose, the credibility behind your project. Also note that the time to grant is quite short because you have, as you see, 9 weeks time of evaluation and then 4 weeks between the interview stage that is additional to the Pathfinder and the decision for granting. Then the EIC accelerator is made, as it's been mentioned by the previous speaker, for very, very competitive SMEs having a disruptive proposal, a disruptive technology that they want to make it quickly brought to the market and deploying very fastly. That's in a nutshell that you have to know about it. Here's the budget for this year. Sorry for the figures. You will receive the slides anyway, so I won't go in too much into the detail. Just retain that you have 2 cut-off dates this year, March and October. Might be too late for addressing the March deadline because you have to pass that I will show you now. This evaluation procedure here, the short proposal in time, 1 month of evaluation to wait, and then you can submit a full proposal, which are the 2 cut-off dates that I saw here, that I showed you right here. Okay. Here are the challenges for this year. One is about AI. I will focus on that one. Again, you will receive through the website guidelines, specific guidelines for this challenge about human-centric generative AI. There is also a program manager among the EIC team that is available for answering the very specific questions that you can have on this specific challenge, but just retain that when you address a challenge in the context of the EIC, you really have to answer every of the expected impacts and the objectives that are behind the topic. You cannot pass on any one of them. You really have to match every of the requirements that are at heart of this challenge. So pardon me, we don't have enough time to go into the details, but if you need more details afterwards, of course, I can provide you the links to the specific one. As for the evaluation criteria, also retain what I say for Pathfinder and transition. It's all about the breakthrough nature of your approach, what you propose as a novelty compared to the state of the art, the timing also of your solution, your IP strategy, the valorization you propose from your solution, the added value compared to the existing competition, of course, it makes sense, and the market creating potential, and to sum it up, how to bring a European solution at a global competitive level. That's what is really foreseen by the Commission. And as for the level of risks, it's also required for companies to explain precisely why the EIC and not another fund. Why not another investor or another funding scheme, basically. Then we have the Eureka Eurostars program that's been mentioned by the previous speaker that I really encourage you to consider in the near future. There are 2 deadlines this year, in March and September, which is probably less hard to, maybe easier to have. Not saying it's automatically easier to get, but the success rate is higher. So maybe if you feel like the previous one I mentioned are maybe too competitive, that could be a stairway to the EIC, because there are links between both. With a fast-track procedure, if you're a beneficiary of a Eurostars project, you can submit in the near future another proposal in the EIC accelerator with the possibility to skip some stages of the evaluation. As for the Eurostars program, you need to build a consortium, and there is no thematic. So you can submit any type of focus in your proposal. And as it's been mentioned by the previous speaker, it's co-funding by the regional authorities in the Brussels case. So they don't evaluate themselves. So you have to go through their procedure first, and then there is an evaluation at European level by independent experts. But again, no time to go into the details, so I will skip this specific aspect of the program. And finally, I also encourage you to go to the clusters, that is the pillar number 2 that I mentioned at the very beginning. Just to give you an idea, I checked yesterday, you have currently 300 calls for proposals that are open currently in Horizon Europe filter. That makes 300 potential calls to address with an AI-based solution. It's up to you, depending on the focus of your solution, the verticals you're developing, to see where you can have a solution or a development of your solution that could be of help to address the challenge that is at heart of every of those 300 goals. NCP is here for help, of course, but we just picked 3 examples that you see at the bottom of the slide to show you how difficult it is indeed to get a full list of where you could be relevant to apply. So I really encourage you to come back to us if you are interested to address one of the 300 goals and see where you could be a very relevant brick of the project and join the consortium, potential consortium, according to the different thoughts I showed you as an introduction of my presentation. And that's it from my side. I think there is no time for questions, so you can just go back to me after the session if you have maybe requests or questions on the different opportunities that I presented right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frédéric. Now, I'll give the floor to Stefano, please. So we'll have a testimony as well from the company Centric AI. Thank you very much, Stefano, for being with us. Something like 10 minutes each.
I'll try to keep. Because everybody must be tired by now.
Yeah.
This is.
Yeah, you can switch the slide. You can move to the next slide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay?
Yeah.
This. Do we need to?
It's okay. It's just a charger.
It's okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
But now the HDMI.
I removed you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many SME? How many of you are SMEs? And how many education, research, university, and public sector? Okay. Well, my name is Stefano. I'm the founding partner of Centric AI, which is a company, a consulting company specializing in AI. And what we do is that we are focusing on human-centric AI, mostly, meaning that we, our main purpose is to have AI solutions that have impacts on society. And we are actually composed by not just one company, but an ecosystem of companies that actually join the same vision in us, and we embark together into this journey of human-centric AI. And today we will, they invited me to bring, to talk to you and to tell my story about as an SMEs that we have won an Horizon program on a human-centric AI project. But there are several projects that we are running in our ecosystem that are all centered on beneficial AI or human-centric AI. ERNIT is a data science and IoT lab that is part of our ecosystem, that they develop software, data science and hardware as well. And OPIT is an online university with a bachelor on data science and master degree in responsible AI, and the Healthcare Innovation Council is another initiative of the healthcare, and we have a portfolio startup that we had to leverage and to scale up. Next. And so the first thing is that I want to give some few lessons learned within our project, our initiatives, and I hope they can be of interest for you. And this lesson learned somehow as about how to build human-centric AI systems in some of your initiatives. Maybe some of may resonate to you. And, it's just not moving so much. And one of the first, anyway, while we work, one of the first, they try to fix that, but one of the first is that lesson learned is that, like we heard today, is that in human-centric AI there is about augmenting human intelligence. It's not replacing the role of humans, but it's rather making the task easier. It's not about replacing the job, it's making the jobs easier and the task in particular easier. And for example, that is the case of a robot that we have developed, a Pilot, that is a home robot for elderly people. He basically recognizes you and he is able to give you the treatments for pills, especially if elderly people are alone and they forget to take the medicines.
It works now.
I'm sorry. No. This is really about making life easier for elderly people. It's assisting them. It's not replacing the role of the doctor. Or another example is an example of thought leadership initiative that we have funded and we are a part of it is the Healthcare Innovation Council. And that is the clear example in the healthcare sector about how human-centric AI is important, is because actually what we are doing in the council is bringing clarity between, it's a group of industry-led representative clinicians, researchers, lawyers, and somehow we organize events and initiatives with public research and papers on healthcare and AI. And there the scope is to bring clarity how AI actually can support the early diagnosis of personal medicine, how to navigate into the complex environment of regulations. And that is one of the things is that if you are applying addressing human-centric AI in the healthcare sector, is the first thing that comes to is that we are not replacing the doctor with any AI solution. We are helping the doctors to make better decisions. And another key issue in the human-centric AI system or developments that is common to all our approaches, the issue of bias, is that the figures illustrate a library with uneven shelves that represent basically the imbalance in data types in a data set, for example. And so one of the key challenges in achieving human-centric AI systems is the issue of bias, in the sense that the model learns from data and produces insights or decisions that are based on this data. So if the data bias, obviously the decisions that the outcome maybe lead to unfair outputs or discrimination. This is particularly important is because what we have realized in all our approaches is that the data scientists we work with are very good, or very technically skilled. However, they lack the understanding of the real world problem, and so when we always need to bring domain experts within the system to help the data science to understand the real world problem that is behind the data. And up to the point that because when the data science for, let's say that one of the projects that we are working on Horizon, we received 30,000 images from gastric cancer from China, and then we have another 200,000 images from Europe. Obviously, the data set is maybe skewed towards the Chinese images. However, is that it's going to create a bias or not? Well, we could assume that the stomach of a Chinese person is the same as the stomach of mine, so maybe not, but maybe yes. Who's going to tell that? For our data scientists, the image is an image. He's not going to question himself whether it's a Chinese or not. I mean, he will, but in clinical terms, no. He will look only. And for that, it's very important that the data science in the projects are combined with domain experts. On this, I just want to give you an idea, I'll give you an example of an initiative that we have launched that is a bachelor degree on computer science and a master degree on responsible artificial intelligence, where actually we are training data scientists to look more, not only on for providing them the foundational for the technical skills, but also bringing them to understand the real world problems. The third lesson that we have learned in developing human-centric AI project is that there is in between, we are always between trustworthiness and explainability. Now, this statement, we understand the notion of explainability very well, but sometimes to make things happen in practice, we need to prioritize trustworthiness, meaning is the AI system trustable? Can it give confidence that will produce the result that we want? By not always the AI system that we produce, we can explain how the multiple dimension or the multiple vectors works, and how the optimization function actually get to that output. We don't. And this is always but we know that the output is maybe precise, sufficiently precise. And this is a discussion that we have with our clinician always, because they want, for example, in this initiative of AIDA is an AI diagnostic system for detecting lesion in the stomach. This is an AI project that received the Horizon grant. There's a big debate between us, between the team and the clinicians, that we want to know what's going on within the neural network that is analyzing the images. And we tell them, well, but why do you want to know? Yeah, because we need to tell to the patient, we need to explain the patient. But the gold standard for endoscopies is about 70%. The detection of gastric cancer on endoscopy is 70%. If the machine can reach a level of accuracy of 95%, what is better? The manual endoscopy that has 70% accuracy, or something that you cannot explain but they have an accuracy of 95%. Of course, it's not, there is a doctor always behind. And also it's doctors, they don't always know why they take a certain decision. So this is important when you build a consortium, when you build your AI system. We find that there is always a balance between explainability and trustworthiness. And some steps, I mean, it's not maybe steps, but somehow the approach that we use when we go for a funding mechanism that needs to support one of the AI initiatives that we have in our ecosystem, such as the one that we saw before of the gastric cancer prevention detection. So this was a grant we received, 7 million, different partners, obviously for different European. And what does it do? This diagnostic assistant is basically a support, an assistant for the medical doctor to detect, for early detection of gastric lesion and gastric cancer. So gastric cancer is a really bad animal. It's really killing, it's deadly, there is no chance of survival. So if you can detect it, you save life. And it is possible to detect it because the clinical pathway of that disease is very clear, and there is a point of no return. So and the point of no return can be detected easily with endoscopies, and even with other with the eradication of a certain bacteria that is called H. pylori. By the way, this is important. If you have never done, go and check your H. pylori, because H. pylori bacteria is present in half of the population, but doesn't mean that half of the population will develop gastric cancer, but all gastric cancer patients have this H. pylori bacteria inside which is a bacteria which is easy to detect, and there are treatment antibiotics. They remove that bacteria. Now, something that is I like to. These are the steps that when we have an AI system or that we want to fund, is what we do is that we do always these things, these 6 steps, if you want. First is we work with a concept, we conceptualize it. Normally other customer comes with an idea, we work with them. Or it is our own idea, sometimes it's our own idea, we work around that. And we actually go and start testing the idea, testing with some data. We start the testing with maybe with some clinicians in the case of AIDA, of the gastric. We started with a data set from H. pylori registry, that is a very good data set of data as a public registry. We started to test with some machine learning algorithm to see if we could define eradication therapies that were better than others, meaning composition of antibiotics and it worked. And then we said, okay, then the experimentation is finished. Sometimes the experimentation is funded by a client, or we do the funding ourselves. We are not going for funding normally on the experimentation level. We want to see if is normally the client that pay for it. It is only after that once the experimentation is finished that we go into strategic funding. So meaning that we look for opportunity to scale up the project, such as Horizon or the other funding mechanism that we saw that Frederick mentioned to us. We look each one and we use, for example, initially like the hub process to help us to identify. We are not specialists in funding, we are specialists in AI, but so we go to hub process or other to actually help us to find the right funding mechanism. And then, this is the most important one, is that then we start working, once we found maybe the right funding, we start working on what we call the ultimate deliverable. And that is where often the project fails. It fails because the ultimate deliverable is not clear. It's not clear, meaning that it needs to have, for us, any project needs to have an impact on society, and it needs to be going beyond the project itself. So the funding is just a spot in time to fund something that will actually work with another funding mechanism, without funding mechanism. So the ultimate deliverable is really important to define, and only then we start writing a proposal once that ultimate deliverable is clear. And then there is obviously this is how we think. This is a table that may be useful, maybe not, I don't know, but we use this table all the time. Is when we define the ultimate deliverable for us, is that it needs to actually, we need to be able to explain to anybody that is not a technician what is going to happen between start, project, and end. And these are the dimensions that we look at. Is it going to, what is the governance and sustainability of the initiative? I mean, is it going to be sustainable after the project end, and how are we going to sustain it? What is the business case? Is there a business case? What is it commercial application, non-commercial? Does it need additional funding afterwards? And then the value proposition. For us, when we do in the healthcare, obviously the medical and clinical relevance, this is fundamental, and then the technology level, how we transition between the different TRL, and obviously consortium competencies, these are important to be mentioned. Now, I think I close here, and for us is what I want to, the message I want to leave with you is that AI is like this general purpose technology that is like electricity 100 years ago. And so, but it is our responsibility to develop an AI that is human-centric. It's not, it is a collective responsibility to those of you that are working in that area, that to develop systems that are ethically human-centric and are gonna help humans, not replace humans. And thank you very much. And if you have
Thank you. Thank you very much, Stefano. It was very interesting. I'm sure you'll be okay to have a short break, just a few minutes to brief a bit, and then we'll have the final session. Just 3 minutes, and we come back here for sustainability and digitalization. Thank you very much.
I already turned off.
It was not that interesting.
will introduce a bit the EDH, which is the Sustain Brussels for us. How many of you are already familiar with EDH? I see a lot of familiar faces, so I will keep it short. As I mentioned, we are part of the European Digital Innovation Hub for the Brussels region. For our consortium, we have Ahoria, Series, QLB, VEB, and Bicentro. This is an initiative started with the European Commission, of course. And if we're going to look a bit closer on what we do, it's important to know that we have 4 pillars. I will explain a bit what are the expertises for our EDH specifically. Now, if we look at test before you invest, this is services that we offer to companies. We have a limited number where we actually go through the journey from ID to implementation of the projects. Herefore, we have the Find Your Digital and Sustainable Journey. We have proof of concept, access to labs. Access to labs such from the ULB and the FEB, of course, that have years, over 40 years experience, for example, in artificial intelligence. And then we also work with more mature digital offers to connect them with specific companies. If we look at what we're doing now with skills and trainings, we offer quite a range of different services, starting from very beginners level to very advanced level. Currently, the trainings that we will have are around sustainable digitalization. You will hear also more about the session on this today. We will also provide more for the technical people, introduction to data science, and in February we have a sustainable IT. Then we also have a pillar on support to investment, but also to funding. So that's in the journey to your different projects. We also want to help you to access to different financial and funding opportunities. And then one that you have met is the events. Today we're organizing the first event together with Ian and Claire, where we of course want to match as many companies and research institutions and others. We have a monthly happy hour where it's a more informal moment where you can connect with us and get to know also what we do and our partners. And this year in June we will have our annual event as well. So important to know is that we can provide all of the services with the support from the European Commission and the Innoviris, and the services are specially designed for small and medium enterprises, mid-caps, and non-profits. So that was a short introduction of what we do, the pillars, and I will leave now the floor to Arjan van der Walle for his session on sustainable digitalization for businesses.
Hello. Oh. Hello. Thank you, Diana. My name is Arjan van der Walle, and I'm a researcher at the VUB, and I'm looking at the sustainable digitalization of business. And I'm going to give a small introduction to how we can look at this interlinkage between sustainability and digitalization. So, first of all, as you know, we're in the midst of a new industrial revolution. After the past industrial revolutions, from the arrival of the steam engine and the mechanization of industry to the technical revolution of industry, where we got mass production, and so on, the third revolution, where we got information systems and digital technologies being used, to now the fourth one, Industry 4.0. In this industrial revolution, we're seeing cyber-physical systems. That's a new part, where technologies are interacting with each other and with people in highly complex ways, hyper-connected, with huge data flows in between. And this new evolution will create a lot of innovation potential, leading to a huge amount of forecasted GDP growth by 2030, $15 trillion according to some forecasts. And Belgium is already well on its way, as you all know, or for the non-Belgians. It's already being heavily implemented in Belgium with, for instance, AI already being applied by 10% of companies in 2022. So yeah, what are we looking at here? So currently, a lot of companies are already applying this high level of connectivity, be it to the internet, to each other, think of remote work options and so on. Communication to customers is happening through websites, through live chats, e-commerce, e-marketing technologies, for instance, a lot of companies already have information management systems like enterprise resource planning and customer relationship management tools and so on. That's already happening on a larger scale. And what will the future bring? Well, more and more use of simulation tools, digital twins, where we can actually view industrial processes online, experiment with them without interfering with any real life sections of the company. The application of AR, of VR, be it perhaps to interact with customers or other applications. And then, for instance, blockchain technology to secure your transactions or to be able to track things throughout your supply chain. Okay, so we got that listing of what's going on, but the focus of this talk is a bit more about sustainability. And when people think about sustainability, the first thought often goes to climate change, perhaps to an extent rightfully so. I just wanted to add the obligatory temperature graph in the beginning of such a talk. So this is the temperature range from the past 20,000 years. And the past 11,000 about years, we see that this is very stable. The temperature has been very stable for the past 11,000 years. This is the Holocene, and this is the period where humanity was actually able to get sedentary, get agriculture going on, technological progress, and we're still living in that period. And then in the end, you see the little ramp, and that's in basically no time we managed to get 1.2 degrees Celsius higher than this relative stability. And we are not immune for the effects of that. Last year was a record year, so last year we saw 1.48 degrees higher than pre-industrial levels, so it's getting very serious. Critical action is required, and according to the IPCC, it's still possible to stay below the 1.5 degrees threshold, but realistically, we're not going to see that. But this, again, makes the urgency pretty clear. But what I want to show in the following part is that when talking about sustainability, we've got to look a bit broader. So in this tiny graph, you don't have to read it per se, we see the surface temperature increase over the past 200 years. And we see the ramp shape. When we look at terrestrial biosphere degradation, so the loss of organisms, of species, plants, animals, we see a similar ramp taking place over the past 200 years. The same for water extraction. When we're looking at the water extracted from surface waters, from groundwaters, we see a similar figure appearing. Urban population and other social impacts count as well here, a similar form. And actually altogether, if you look at a myriad of parameters of impacts on the world, and these can be both environmental and social, we see what some term the great acceleration. In just a couple of decades to 200 years, we see an enormous impact from human activity on the surroundings, and this goes way beyond just surface temperature. And sustainability has to be viewed as such also as being a bit broader than that. Sustainability you can view often through three pillars. So you have your economical pillar, because we need economic development as well. This is very important, for instance, in the global south, that people can live a prosperous or can have just well-being through a well-functioning economy. Then we have society, where human health, other forms of human well-being, safety, and so on are taken into account. And then ecology, the planet and its health. And you cannot have a thriving society in a dead ecology. You cannot have a thriving economy in a dead society. And that's why you can view it nested, preferably. And so to bring it back to digitalization, my question would be, well, first let me show you the picture here. This is a data center in Saint-Ghislain in Belgium. Google invested a lot of money in Belgian data centers. And I was wondering, is this sustainable? Like, what do you say about this, this product of digitalization? And the answer is, well, it depends who you ask. So if we would look at the back, there is the connection with the grid. The energy grid, well, this center uses a lot of energy. Energy generally leads to emissions, but Google made sure that most of the energy coming in is green. So is it sustainable now? Well, if you look at the other circle at the left top, there is the environment. This data center is extracting huge amounts of water from the environment to cool the server rooms inside. The number is about 1.5 billion liters of water annually being extracted from canals in the neighborhood. This is a huge amount. Then it doesn't stop there, the story, of course. I put a little circle around the cars in the parking lot. There are also people working there. People who perhaps depend for their livelihood on this center. If you would ask someone in the local community if they would find this sustainable, perhaps they would answer something very differently again. Just to show that we can go on and on with parameters here. Sustainability is best viewed in large and not just according to a single point of view. Just to illustrate it a bit more, if we have autonomous vehicles that can drive completely themselves, and you would ask yourself, okay, what is the sustainability impact of this, of an autonomous vehicle? You could say, okay, the cars are driving with a myriad of sensors, high-tech applications in there. So some data is already indicating that we have fewer crash accidents if you would apply this. Perhaps in the context of an American city, this is easier to achieve than in Brussels, but I mean, in general, it would be perhaps better for human health. And because they drive more efficiently, we would have less traffic, and there would be less noise pollution. They don't need as much lighting on the street to drive around, so perhaps we have less light pollution. All these positive impacts. Another impact of this innovation would be that once you have a car that drives you to work, do you need to live as close to your work? Can you not be driven like for an hour and a half if you can be working in the meantime? So an impact on sustainability could be more urban sprawl, taking more rural area or natural area in the surroundings, and we could see cities expanding way more because people don't mind the travel distance to work as much. And a final thing is that because such cars are fitted with a huge amount of sensors, they're actually producing and processing a lot of data. One such car at the moment produces and processes about 4,000 gigabytes of data per day, just coming from the sensors and to be able to predict the best road of action. So if we would have 2 million of these cars, we would have the same data intensity, same amount of data processing as being processed by the entire global population right now, just 2 million cars. And this always also asks for energy. So we might see a huge energy increase because of this. Just to illustrate, it can get complex with digital technologies. I'm gonna skip this one. So now I wanted to tell a bit more in a story format. I like history a bit, so just going a bit into history on how digitalization and digital technologies like AI, often the impacts are very abstract. They're far away, they're not easy to get to. And in this image, this is a painting painted in the 19th century of something arriving on the Canadian coast. It's a transatlantic cable. So in the 19th century, Great Britain in the Victorian era started rolling out these cables across the Atlantic and across continents so that they could have better communication with their colonies. Logical. It's way faster to have a signal going through a cable than to be going by boat. Well, these cables, they were very hard to make back in the day. And actually, one such cable used many tons, I cannot give a number right now, but many tons of latex which came from other colonies, being the area of Malaysia and so on. And this latex came from more specifically from a tree, from Palacium buta. And this tree had to be cut down in huge numbers to make one such cable. Actually, for one cable, you needed millions of trees. It's an incredible number. And in just 20 years, this tree, which was abundant beforehand, was completely extinct in Malaysia and the surroundings. So the ecological effect of a process, you can call digitalization or communication technology going on, led to a huge ecological disaster. And I also put a little circle around the person. The people actually dealing with this stuff were people not getting paid very well. It was very dangerous work. So you could also definitely take some social aspects there and scrutinize them. And right now, okay, we have this thing called the cloud. Cloud computing becoming very popular. And when you hear of the cloud, you think of something like fluffy, innocent, it's very clean, the cloud. But there is a reverse side. And this is Lake Baotou. This is a very important site in China where there's rare earth mineral mining there. So China has 95% of the rare earth minerals in the supply. So they control a very large part of the market. And the result is a sulfuric acid lake, which reeks terribly of sulfur and is highly toxic. And coming from the processing of the ores necessary for the rare earth minerals, which are necessary for the cloud. But this is far away, so you don't immediately see things like this. But it is, yeah. If you're wondering why China has the largest part of the supply in hands, it's because not per se that their geographical location is so ideal. It's really because they are willing to take the ecological disaster coming with it. So that's a way to look at the ecological consequences of digitalization. And another example that I wanted to give is this, the Mechanical Turk. It's the real name of a hype in Austria in the 18th century. If you went to the courtyards of Austria back in that time, a huge event would be this mechanized person, a robot, so you will, who you could play chess with. So it would come to the courtyards and the robot would start playing chess with you. But in reality, it was fraudulent because there was a person inside actually playing the chess game, and it was kind of hard to decipher. But the Mechanical Turk, the name state, it's called Turk by the way because it was dressed as a Turk. This was a sort of fashion thing back in the day. Amazon started a service not long ago called Mechanical Turk as well. And it's actually a service where you can hire crowd workers across the globe to do the more tedious jobs that a computer cannot do. For instance, think of image labeling, data cleaning, easy data processing. So you can just hire a lot of crowd workers through that service. The advantage really of using Amazon Mechanical Turk or other similar services is that you don't really have to worry about minimum wages with these people who are working. For these jobs, you don't have to worry about overtime compensations, other compensation schemes. So a reality both for common software products where this is needed, or AI, ChatGPT for instance, used similar worker services. The reality is that there's a lot of labor unnoticed, globally spread about, which is kind of tedious. So yeah, important to keep that in mind, but it's not all negative, of course. And I wanted to show what the potential is from digitalization for sustainability as well. This is the British Library. I don't know if you've ever been, but it's the biggest library in the world. Constructed somewhere in the 18th century, and it contains more than 200 million human artifacts, books, maps, all kinds of artifacts, a huge collection. And imagine if you have a 12 terabyte hard drive. How many 12 terabyte hard drives would you need to contain all the information from these artifacts in the British Library, excluding the computer that they have? But how many would you need? 12 terabyte hard drives. Does anybody want to Just say a number, what do you think?
Thousands.
1,000 hard drives? General agreement? Okay. It's 3 12 terabyte hard drives. And you contain all the information present in this library. And this shows one huge potential of digitalization, the fact that we can take a lot of material impact, a lot of resources that would be in this library, and put them in a digital format with less impact. So when it comes to resource use, when it comes to efficiency increases, and many other advantages, digitalization can bring about a lot of sustainability. And then quickly, because I also noticed that the time is running out, AI is all around us, as you know, of course. Generative AI applications, recommendation systems in Netflix, the car that assists you with driving through AI, and now Bosch even producing an oven with an AI feature, so you can bake the perfect cake. AI is all around us, and it has a lot of advantages for sustainability. Think of the forecasting capabilities, where supply and demand can be matched on the energy grid, for instance, efficiency increases that are possible thanks to AI. Think of how AI can be used to bring pesticides more efficiently on the land, transportation improvements, and so on. The possibilities are endless there. And I was curious, so I asked ChatGPT, how much water do you use? And ChatGPT said, I don't use water or any physical resource because I'm a text-based AI and I don't have physical presence. Well, ChatGPT is actually wrong there. Per 50 questions asked to ChatGPT, you use approximately half a liter of water. That's 10 liters of water per 1,000 questions. I know I already used 10 liters of water for sure, but this is an impact that you don't really see or don't really think about this when you're using these kinds of technologies. Next to that, just want to point out that for AI as well as general digitalization, it does not come out of thin air. There are a lot of material resources, metals and so on, needed to power this revolution. And then when it comes to emissions, one last point. To train ChatGPT, one training round equals about 500 tons of CO2. It's a huge emission well, it depends how you look at it, but 500 times flying across the Atlantic, it's quite an impact that goes unnoticed often. And we're already, when we're looking at the world's computational efforts, or the competition going on globally, it already equals, in terms of carbon footprint, the aviation sector. Good. In conclusion, just wanted to let you take away this feeling of wanting to remove the abstraction when it comes to digitalization. So a lot of things are going unnoticed, environmental impacts, social impacts, and I think if these go unnoticed, if we take this into account when digitalizing, then we can really use digital to get the sustainability goal that we want, and I think digital can help a lot with that. If you remove the abstraction, you remove the extraction. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining our program today. So we invite all of you to have continue with your meetings, have some more informal discussions here just in front. Thank you so much for your time.